And hello again, and here we are, we're back in my garage on a beautiful sunny day for a change. And here we have the Z650 precariously leaning against the wall because I don't have a side stand bolt yet. So it's got to lean against the wall for now. I've pretty much finished all the work I can do for the time being, apart from a few small things. So it's going to have to stay here for a while we work out what to do with the engine and get the engine rebuilt, whatever engine it might be. While of course here next to it is the Mark II frame, and things are going quite well with that for a change. So with that out of the way, I can now move my attention to 1170. And so after a long wait, I finally dragged 1170 out on the drive, leaving behind a trail of oil in the garage, because of course without the outrigger in place, as soon as you move the bike, just lean it over, oil gushes out of the engine. A bit annoying because it costs about £45 for 4.5 litres, so I didn't want to do that too often, so that's why it's been sat on a pallet stand in the garage for the last, 6-7 weeks. I've brought it out here now, and I've just fitted this side with the badges and side from, that's fine. I've also measured up what I need to do to get the rear light in place. Got to drill that next, and hopefully that'll be done. As I'm looking over the bike, there's still an awful lot to do. Just coming around here, hopefully you can hear me above the sound of the birds and the wind. Here, the metal is showing because that's where it's welded. So I painted it with PJ1 high temperature paint, no problem at all. Except then I got oil on it, so I thought, oh, okay, no problem, I'll remove the oil. I used acetone, which wasn't a good idea because it also took off the paint, so that's got to be cleaned, degreased, got all the oil off it, and then I'll respray that, not a problem. Next up, at the front of the bike, I've got to mount the mudguard. And so now looking at the front of the bike, the mudguard in place, it's not quite right yet because these mounts are quite complicated. The two mounts back and front aren't in line. So the back one's okay, but the front one I've got to make a little weird spacer. I made that very crudely a while ago, see if it works. It does work, but I've got it wrong by about 2mm. But now I know that, we can make a better version and get it on the bike. Yes, that's pretty good. I've also noticed that I think this fork leg is leaking. I think the seal's gone. I checked it, I guess, in the past. It seemed okay, but not okay, so that needs to be rebuilt. And obviously I do both sides at the same time. By the way, I do apologise for the noise of that bloody bird above my head. Can't do much about that. I know it's a right pain when you're listening to this video, the new videos I've done recently, because the birds are all up in the trees singing away. I am looking for a directional mic for the camera. This will cut that down a bit. But my camera is quite, it's a Canon EOS 300G. It doesn't have a standard mic jack, so it makes life a bit more complicated to find the appropriate mic. I may even buy myself a new camera, but they're quite expensive, about £800, so we'll wait on that one. So yeah, so there's still an awful lot to do with the bike. And so we'll start with something easy, which is to fit the rear light to the bike. It's already got a bracket, just need to measure things up and drill it and bolt it to these two bolts here, and we're done. So that's what's next. And now here we are, back in my garage. And as you can see, the Kawasaki Z650 rear lamp is now mounted. Now at the moment, the dovetail isn't quite bolted down correctly. It will end up a little bit higher, something like that. So now what I've got to do is remove all this and put this plate in my vise to bend it, because this lower bit needs to be angled out to make sure the rear plate is also angled out correctly. So anyway, that's that. So let's get this off now, get it in the vise, and hopefully we'll soon have it done. And so now I've taken the aluminium bracket off the bike, got it in the vise. I've just checked the height, made sure it's lined up, it's all nice and even. So now I'm going to hit it with a big hammer. There's a block of wood here just to spread out the load. I don't want to mark the aluminium if I can't help it. So now we're just going to hit it as hard as we can and hope for the best. I could heat it up, but really there's no point because this aluminium is about, I think it's about 3mm, and hopefully a bit of force on this thing, it'll bend. If it doesn't bend, I'll get my blowtorch on it. But yeah, it's starting to go now, I can feel it. Just take your time. Once it goes, you can feel it go, and it then starts to go a bit easier. There you go. Now how far do I do it? I don't know, about maybe 25, 30 degrees. I'll try it out. If it's not enough, we'll do a bit more. This sounds like we need a bigger hammer, but this is a lump hammer that's quite big enough. when I go too mad with it. Right, how's that? Yeah, that's not bad, is it? So, put that there. It's now bent. Not sure that's enough, but we'll give it a quick check. And if not, I'll bend it a bit more. And so now, let's see how it looks on the bike, see what the angle right. And yeah, I think that's pretty good. That angle will give me enough clearance for the number plate so that it won't hit the tyre, even on full compression, which is what we want. So yeah, pretty happy with that. And so now I've got to decide what would be the best way of coating this in some sort of black finish. And I think either I'll take it to Cam Coat, they're quite local to me, and have it hard anodised black, because it is a very hard wearing finish, that. Or maybe I'll wait, and next time I go to Triple S or in Bingley, I'll get Matthew over there to either powder coat it or give it a Cerakote finish, because where this is on the bike, you know, it's sort of sitting there, the wheels here, it's going to get blasted by grit and rain and God knows what else. So I suspect the finish won't last very long if I just painted it with some, you know, rattle can black or something like that. Black and wait. Right, okay, so what's next? And so my next job is to test out the electrics of this rear lamp. Not tested it yet. So to do that, I've got my trusty little 12-volt battery here, which I find incredibly helpful, along with two cables. Each one's got a bit of a probe on the end. So all I've got to do now is check out what's going to happen when I put power through this connector. It's got, seems to have three wires, which makes sense: a blue, a red, and a yellow and black. So at a guess, I'd say blue and red are going to be brake light and main light, and the yellow and black is going to be the earth. So let's have a look if I'm right about that. So let's have a look. Red, which one's the red one? Yeah, that one there. So that's red, and the yellow and black one is this one here. Yeah, it lights up. See that? I'm just trying to get this right for you guys. So if I do that, lights up. So that doesn't seem very bright to me, so I think that's probably the lights themselves. So change around a little bit, put it on the other wire, blue wire. Should we be wearing glasses for this because I can't see very well. Yeah, you see that's a lot brighter. That'll be the brake light. So now I know the bulbs are okay and the wiring's okay. One slight problem is, of course, that this wire connects here, this block, I don't have the other half. So what I'm going to do is remove this block connector and replace it with another one. And to do that, with a bit of luck, I won't need to cut the wire or reattach any of the internals. I can just carefully press a little prong in there and lift them all out. But we'll see, we'll see. So anyway, that's quite good. So that works. There's another little job done. So now, as I say, I'm going to find, I've got a little sharp pointy thing that I can just push in there. There's like a little tang in there, a little spring-loaded plastic tang, and you push it down and you can pull out these connectors that are inside the plastic block. Well, hopefully you can anyway. So that's what's next. And so to remove this connector, I've had to resort to a magnifying glass to see what the hell's going on, because my eyesight's not as good as it was, but I think I've worked out what's going on. And as usual, the metal connectors inside this plastic block, a little spring-loaded tang on them, and that's what holds it in place. You push it in, it sort of springs up. So if you push down that tang against the piece itself, against the connector, you can then push them out. So I'm using a little small screwdriver to do that. I've just got one of them done here. There you go, look. So there's one of them done. I do apologise, by the way, for the light here, it's not perfect, but I'm shooting from in the garage out, so it's obviously brighter outside than it is in here. But the reason for that is so that hopefully you can't hear the loud bird song that I can hear outside. So you can't win, can you? It's either noise or the light's not perfect. But anyway, I've got one out now. So I'll take my little magnifying glass that I need, and I can see which side the tang is on. Yeah. But this last one is being a bit awkward. It doesn't want to come out. I don't know why. Okay, I think that might be coming now. Doesn't help when you can't see what you're doing. But there you go. Come on. I'm not even... Oh, it's not coming. This is what I mean. I mean, it should in theory come out, but it's not doing. Don't know why. That little blade is pressed against it now when I'm doing this, and it's still not coming out. It's fighting me all the way. Come on. No. I can't see what I'm doing, so I've got to stop it every now and again, have a look, see what's going on. So, that looks like it should come out now. perhaps I'll just spray it with a bit of WD-40. It could be stuck in there for some reason. A little bit of WD, won't do any harm. Help it come out. And just use a bit of brute force. I don't really care about the plastic connector itself because I won't be using it again. But what I'm trying to do is keep these connectors, these blades, so I can reuse them. I don't have to cut the wires and start all over again, which I could do, I suppose, if needed. There you go, it's gone now. So there's them two gone. Now hopefully, there we go. Phew, that was quite good. So hopefully I can now find a plastic connector, of which I've got both sides for, and use that on the bike. Right, I'll try and get a close-up now, show you how these connectors actually work. And so now I've got as close as I can to these three connectors, and hopefully you can see each one of them has a small little tang, a little spring-loaded tang here at its base, which you can press. It's actually spring-loaded. And what happens is, as you push that through the plastic connector block, it gets to a point where it springs out, and that's what holds it in its correct place within the block. So to remove it, you've got to put something down this side and push it down to be flush with the connector, and then it'll come out. So that's what I've done with that. So now hopefully I can find a suitable 3-blade connector to use on the bike, and that will save me from having to cut these off and reattach some new blades on the wiring. So that's that. And now here we are, it's the next day, and I'm about to go to see Camcoat on the far side of town to get a few things hard anodised. But before I go, I was waiting for a parcel to be delivered, and here it is, it's just arrived. And this parcel isn't for me. Oh no, it's something that I've got for Jeff. She wants to buy this, and I said, well, hang on. I know somebody who might have one of these. And sure enough, I asked the guy, no, have you got one? Yeah. Something, well, yeah. I said, yeah, no problem, mate. So here it is. And what's in here? Hang on, let's get it open. Is something for one of Jeff's very mad new projects, because in the week just gone, me and him went up to Lancaster to see a nice man called Steve. We bought a frame. And turns out Steve actually owns a breakers up in Lancaster, so he's a useful guy to know. In fact, Steve will be coming down to see us at the weekend. We're going to see some of our bikes and projects and whatever, because he's into Suzuki's big old, katanas and EFEs, that sort of thing, and maybe some parts needs to be made that Jeff can help him with and whatever. So anyway, that's a different story. So if you're watching, Steve, hello. Anyway, this is just a pair of carbs, seen better days, and they're off, would you believe, a Honda CB250N Super Dream. Now Jeff is not building a Honda Super Dream, that's for damn sure, but he thinks he might be able to use these carbs on his new Honda project, which we'll talk about another day. Yeah, they still smell of petrol quite strongly, so I guess they come off a bike quite recently. And that said, I think Steve's going to bring another pair of these down with him, because we bought a few things from him, and it makes sense for him to bring them down rather than post them. But having two sets is never a bad thing, and these were free, so can't argue with that. So anyway, that'll be a new project, which will probably take 10 years for Jeff to finish, but if it gets finished at all. But we'll talk about that another day. So I'm happy that they're here in one piece. And so that's here okay, and now I've got to jump in the car and go and see Camcoat on the far side of town. It's about 4 miles away, where I'm going to get some parts hard anodised. And now I'm back from Camcoat. We left them parts for the 1170 and also for the Mark II project, and those parts are all getting the same finish. They're getting a super tough black ceramically anodised finish, which hopefully will last a long time and not wear in use. So for the Mark II, I took them the new Billet engine brackets we made for the bike. While for the 1170 here, I've taken things like the foot pegs, the gear change little peg at the end here, same thing on the other side for the brake, and then a few of the small parts that need to be given a really tough finish. So they'll be given a ceramic anodising finish, which is supposedly, super tough, same as the engine here, and I'll get that back in about 2 weeks' time. So can't really do much more until I get those parts back. And so now, as you can see, I've mounted the rear lamp in place at last. Now I've decided not to have this alloy bracket hard anodised at Camcoat, at least not yet, because there's a 2 or 3 week lead time for that. Didn't want to wait, so I just painted it with so-called tough paint, and we'll see how long that lasts for. If it doesn't last very long, then we can always take it off and get it anodised at some point in the future. So now what I'm doing is I've mounted the ducktail with the correct Z1 rubber grits and washers and so on, And now what I've got to do is get the angle right, because we built this bike such that the ducktail can be changed in terms of its angle. So right now, it may be a little bit too low. So what you can't see from over there, perhaps I'll move the camera and you can see how it's done. And so what we have here is this bar into which the two standard balls mount through threaded holes, obviously. And this bar here is in turn mounted to a frame member by two long bolts here. But those two bolts are held in place in turn by two lock nuts down here. So all I've got to do is ease off those lock nuts, and I can screw this bar in and out, or up and down, depending on what I want the angle to be. So right now it's just as it was. So if I now go and get the seat, put it in the bike, and we'll see how it looks. And so now with the seat in place, I can judge maybe if this angle is correct or not. And I think it needs to be just a little bit higher, something like that, because that will close up the gap between the seat and the ducktail, and also give me clearance around the back here so that the rear lamp doesn't rub against the inside of the tail section. So yeah, I think I'll do that. But that change will have to wait for a while because I'm quite busy today. So that's it for now. So thanks for watching, and cheers.